Hey family, how you doing? It's your brother Vladimir. Peace to you, peace to your home, peace to your family, peace to your community, peace to your ancestry, peace to my community, peace to my ancestry, and peace to the nation that you, I, and they are building. Peace also to the goddic forces, the great spirit above, the mother earth below. This is Mtima Radi, everybody. So, one of my subscribers left a comment which YouTube kept deleting, and I wanted to actually um, talk about it. Not the whole thing, just one little portion of it, because I've heard this argument before, and I think there needs to be a comment definitely to it. The commenter, the subscriber, said that he had never really gotten down with Martin Luther King because Martin Luther King was Boule. Um, Having studied Dr. King, not only his speeches, but done a little bit of digging into his life, into the story surrounding his speeches. Well, I'm going to say this. My father used to always tell me to judge a man by his works. You can also judge him, obviously, by who he associates with, and there's times when you need to do that too. But learning, okay, let me back up and say a couple of things. Learning what I have about this society in general, because again, we always forget when people say Boule, the Boule exists in the vacuum of a power structure that is controlled by, created by, and dominated by white people. This is true today, and this was certainly true back then. The second thing that we always have to remember is Dr. King was born into a middle class family with relatively deep and strong ties into the conservative black church, the black community, the and the white community. Dr. King wouldn't have been able to go to Stanford if his family didn't have deep ties into the community, into both communities, white and black. We always have to remember that. For this reason, yes, I'm not surprised that Dr. King belonged to a couple of fraternities. That doesn't surprise me. Thirdly, excuse me, we always have to remember what Amos Wilson said. The information that people such as, I think his name was Steve Coakley, was talking about, because he's the one who really popularized the idea of black people being in the Boule. He's the one who revealed that information and started popularizing it. Amos Wilson said, look, this is not hard information to find. This is information that is regularly available, and you can go out there and you can find it. Now, we always have to remember, he didn't say this, I'm adding this. Boule is a catch-all term. It's a catch-all term. If you join a fraternity in college, you are technically part of the Boule if you're in a black fraternity. Okay? There are I have met people who are at my level who have excuse me, who have joined fraternities. And, if a fraternity brother or sister called her up, or them up, should I say, they would probably have no problem responding to whatever that fraternity brother and sister asked them to do without asking any questions. because that's what a fraternity is. But I don't distrust them because of it. Now, obviously, Dr. King was on a much greater level than we are. And for that reason, I understand the skepticism. Um, but I think about what Dick Gregory said, which Dr. King said to him shortly before his death. I'm afraid we might be integrating into a burning house. I think about that in light of some of the information that I've read about Dr. King's organization, the SCLC, and the internal conflicts that were starting to become very evident in 1966. Dr. King in 1966 and 67 was not the Dr. King of 1956 and 57. The Dr. King of 1966 and 67, it's clear by his statement to Dick Gregory, was starting to question the potentialities of integration. It is clear that he had some misgivings about integration. And it is clear that if the society which he was integrating into, which he said this on numerous occasions, wasn't reformed significantly, then black folks were going to be in a world of hurt. He didn't say that last part on numerous occasions. What he would say is that, when he became interested in anti-war activism, which, arguably, he became more interested in it when white people seemed to become more interested in it. True. At the same time, opposition to the Korean War, which was at the beginning of opposition in the beginning of the Vietnam War, went against his aims and objectives. So he was silent. But not only when the Vietnam War began to rack up a huge body count, it appears, and I suppose when Dr. King started learning, because I have a couple of his speeches from that era about Vietnam, when he started learning exactly how we got into Vietnam, he changed his mind, which, kudos to him. I know people like to throw stones and say, well, if you haven't always been this way, life isn't perfect. Nobody is the same person that they were at 25, which is around when he got thrust onto the scene. They're not the same when they're 38, 37, 39. You grow. And in fact, you're expected to. There's a metaphysical component into that, which I won't get into. But Dr. King was special. He was special. And again, I've done the research on the man. You can discount him because he was in the Boule, a catch-all term, without actually researching the groups that he was in, because if you dig far enough, you can actually find the names of a couple of the fraternities which he was in, and these are not household fraternities. They're not well known. But you got to dig into the scholarship, the books, to actually find the names. I've done a little bit of that. Dr. King was well connected. He was very well connected. Think about it. His chief of staff, Andy Young, ended up on the Trilateral Commission and all the rest. He was very well connected. But at the end of the day, what you got to ask yourself is, okay, if he was that well connected and he was part of the Boule, um, why did he end up dead with a bullet? It's not as simple as saying, he went against governmental war policy. No, it was deeper than that. It was much deeper than that. And if you look at his speeches, you see that. Dr. King was educated differently. He was educated drastically differently, and you can tell. It's clear. I have some of the books that he used to read actually. That he was trained in Jewish scholarship. It's clear that he was trained in metaphysical scholarship. And it's clear really that he was divinely inspired and influenced. I would suggest, especially to the brother who wrote the comment, that instead of wholeheartedly dismissing the man because he was in the Boule, which, when you're at that level, if you ain't in some kind of group, then there's a problem. I'd look at his works. I'd look at his speeches. I'd look at his overall vision. Because even though he is touted as the Prince of Nonviolence and a massive integrationist, Dr. King started out as an integrationist. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And in fact, apparently Dr. King wanted to court and possibly marry a white woman. Yeah, his father stopped him from doing that. Now, I could only imagine why his father stopped him from doing that. In fact, I'm pretty confident I know why his father stopped him from doing that, because of the looks of that in the black community at the time. But that does not diminish the work the man did. And truthfully, I think being married to Coretta Scott King actually helped his works. And it's clear there's a little known speech that was given by Coretta Scott King about a month after Dr. King died. And it's a speech that I believe Dr. King was working on. It is called the 10 Commandments on the Vietnam War. And, there's no way that she didn't have an influence on that speech. None. Yeah. So it was a benefit to him to be married to her. But Dr. King is a complex figure. And, if hopefully you're still watching the video. I've produced I've put out a couple of these videos about Dr. King. I would encourage you to go back and I'd encourage you to look at them. I just did one recently, in fact. I did one on the metaphysical importance of Dr. King and Malcolm X. I would definitely go back and check that one out. It's in the 1990s, there was this weird transition that happened where the newer generation, for some freaking reason, wanted to get rid of everything that the old generation had been about. So they cast dispersion on anybody who they saw as non-pure. So Malcolm X came out unscathed. He was better than King. And I don't look at either one of them as being better. I look at either one of them as John Hendrik Clarke said. As John Hendrik Clark said, it's not about them being better. It's about they both did what they thought would be best for their people. Now, it says something that Malcolm X was trying to get together with Dr. King shortly before his assassination. And it also says something that the worst violence, the worst rioting, or even both of them, really didn't start until Malcolm X was away from the scene over in Africa. Almost got did get himself poisoned. People don't look at that. People don't look at the fact that the rioting started when he was away, and then it intensified after his death. There was something about them two men. If they had gotten together, it wasn't either or, ladies and gentlemen. It was both. And so do not discount him because, he was in Boule. Don't discount him because he happened to be part of a middle-class family that had deep ties and there were fraternities and all the rest. Dr. King, yes, he was an integrationist. Yes, he talked about the primary plan, which was he talked a lot. He did talk about globalism. He did. He actually did. But when he started seeing the faults and the problems, instead of being quiet, he started speaking up about it, and that's what got him killed. He stood in the way of white people doing what they wanted to do, and that's ultimately what got him killed. So don't just discount him. All right. Question, comments, concerns, leave them below. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.